Morning, DC. My name is Deepa Shrikante. I work with the Global Program for Education. Welcome to this special Numeracy webinar. This webinar is a follow-up to the Numeracy conference that was held in Berlin last December. And in response to the positive feedback that we got at the conference, developing a new numeracy program dedicated to numeracy, focusing at school in the early grades. This webinar will showcase GNU numeracy, followed by from the World Bank, and comments rather from the World Bank, BID, and JICA. So without further ado, I'm hand it over to my colleagues at GIZ. Will be presenting from GIZ.
Yes, hello everybody. Also from our side here from Germany, a warm welcome and thanks to all for invitation. I myself, together with Lena Marie, we are very much looking forward for your inspiring input, for sharing the exchange. I first of all would like to introduce you to our just started a new sector numeracy, and I'm eager to share our vision with you and the focal topics we have in mind. And due to the fact that we started with our program, we are open to all unions' expectations, your perspective on the overall issue of it, and that's why we have invited together with me and to this webinar session. Already said as follow-up step the Numeracy conference last year, and I need to see several people having participating today who I already met last year. So I introduce you to our new sector program. So the sector program is by the German Economic Cooperation and Development and is now being implemented by GIZ in close cooperation with the Global Partnership for Education, the GPE in Washington. Our goal is to develop, so this is the overall and long-term goal, to develop application approaches, strengthening of numeracy competencies in preschool and early grades. They are ready for presentation. I will issue in okay. Was informed that I have to go camera because the sound is obviously not that good. So the program duration, as I've said, we have just started in January. The initial phase is planned until December 14. So what is it all about? We have a strategic vision. What we have in mind is to add numeracy to the numeracy agenda. So we are in steps in creating a new movement and thereby be inspired by the lessons learned early grade literacy. So if we look back some 5 or 10 years, we knew, and I'm now referring to reading and writing, about a lot of problems which were around. So after we have was in the access of to basic education, basically. We have then
Yes, thank you very much, Michael. That was a great presentation. And I just wanted to add, if you have any questions, you can just put it in the chat box, and then I will relay it to Michael at the end of the webinar. But thanks again, Michael. Now we're going to move over to Noah Yarrow, who's with the World Bank, and he actually took the red eye from Djibouti last night and arrived very early this morning. So thank you very much, Noah, for joining us.
Also,
Got off the plane literally almost ago. So thanks again. I'll let you get started.
Okay, is the presentation visible?
No, yeah, share the screen.
Can everyone see?
Yes, we can see it well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Deepa and GIZ for organizing this webinar, and I'm happy to brief so that we can get to the more interactive section of the discussion. I want to start with the education strategy of the World Bank, which I assume most of you are familiar with, which focuses on a systems approach. Part of what I see as a sector-wide and donor-wide shift from such as teacher training and construction to outputs and outcomes, particularly student learning. So of what the world at a global level, analytical and advisory activities, which accounted for 9.3 in 10 years, their early child development approach. The BEAR is a set of tools, the systems approach for better education results, which is a global assessment tool for early development systems. As part of that, we look at learning at the earliest level, and math are a very large part of that. Another of this work with ECD and Numeracy at the regional level is the Early Learning Partnership for Africa, which recently and its technical assistance and funding to support ECD and early learning in Saharan Africa. Another example from the work is ARIAC, which is the Arab Regional Agenda Educational. This was launched in 2012 with support from Alexo, the Arab League Education, Culture, and Science Organization, which is a regional focused on learning quality and jobs. RIAC, there are different partnerships or sub-activities, including teacher monitoring and evaluation of learning outcomes, entrepreneurship, ECD, and curriculum innovation. So math and numeracy are a large part of the monitoring and evaluation of learning outcomes approach. In terms of country-specific work, we could talk a lot about a lot of different programs. I want to highlight two specific programs that I know well and are at least partially supported by GPE. The Haiti Education for All project is actually a series of multi-donor grants which includes GPE funding and is administered by the World Bank, targeting both student learning and access in Haiti. Part of the approach is a scripted lesson approach for primary school teachers, which includes a strong focus not only on math, but also on the local production of learning materials to support student learning. Djibouti is the where I just came from this morning, we're currently preparing an education access and quality project with support from the GPE. And this particular project, we plan to have a specific learning outcome indicator for early grade numeracy as part of the project. And I think this particular project is a good example of some of our colleagues that are talking about in terms of collaboration and coordination. This particular project is designed to mirror and complement a planned USAID project which will focus on early literacy. So the GPE funds and the World Bank will support the numeracy side of early grade learning, and USAID will support the literacy side, which brings me to some of the points I just wanted to make quickly in response to the GIZ numeracy presentation. I really think it's important that we as a group and a community take a broader view of literacy and not only limit ourselves to reading. And I think there's a lot to be learned from the recent literacy movement, the development of the complement to EGRA. But I also wanted to acknowledge that there's a lot of unfinished work left in literacy. Many of the countries we work in have not achieved learning for all and still have quite some ways to go. And I want to encourage us to be innovative and learn from the existing literacy movement, but also feel free to start new approaches. Which leads me to my second point, which is I really appreciate the GIZ's emphasis on rigorous research. I think we really need to look at examining and better understanding instructional practices, classroom-based, in numeracy, in relevant contexts, in developing world contexts, so we can tools for effective numeracy instruction. The other point I just wanted to make is that I really, from the perspective of the World Bank, don't have an individual program or portfolio. It's part of a systems-wide approach and the global strategy for learning for all. So I don't have a specific approach to present to you, but it is part of our operations at the global level, the regional level, and a number of country programs which particularly target numeracy work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noah, for the presentation. Thanks again for the questions that are into the chat box. Convey it to the presenters at the end of the session. Next, we're going to have Ed Barnett, who's in from London. He's with DFID, and he's about DFID's plan on numeracy. So thanks again, Noah. I'm going to hand it over to Ed now.
Can you, is that right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm pulling it up.
Thanks to GP for bringing us back together since the conference in Berlin, but also to be, unfortunately I haven't been able to participate or observe all the various numeracy webinars that you've over the period, but it's great that this is being sustained. A good opportunity now for us to talk in terms of where we've got to and what the next can be. I'm going to share DFID's perspective. I apologize to those who were in Berlin, but it is going to be slightly repetitive. Given there haven't been great change in direction in terms of great shift focus onto over the past 6 months, but I hope by sharing both what the perspective is from a policy perspective as well as from the individual country sense, the approach that Noah took, the thought bank, I'll take a similar one from DFID. and I think my screen's doing all sorts of funny things at the moment.
Apologies. Slide up. 1 second, Ed. Sorry.
Sure, no worries. Well, I'll start speaking to it. So, from an organisation policy perspective, there's a strong, as at the World Bank, on learning, particularly on foundation skills of literacy and numeracy, has been suggested at the conference in Berlin as well as by Michael, in relation from GIZ. There is a literacy bias, if you like, and that's also FID's own work. So we do have a corporate level indicator that requires us to monitor the number of countries that DIF is showing improvement in the proportion of children with sufficient fluency for comprehension in early grade. So focused on a fluent grade literacy. We don't have a related measure or indicator for numeracy. And I suppose one for the group would be what would be an early grade measure of numeracy? What might that and how might we integrate that into an organizational framework? A focus on fundamentals, but more of an emphasis on literacy. But that said, through our country, there's an awful lot of work going on, both targeted directly at the numeracy activities or at both the combination of literacy and numeracy. And very much in our work at country, I think there's more of a balance across the two areas observed sort of at the central policy level. So I was just going to share a few examples from 3 countries and 1 or 2 regions. So in Ghana, we are about to finalize and launch a program for out-of-school children, work with Pratham, developing a numeracy program and materials. This is a case of a focus both on literacy and numeracy, but in the work with Pratham, that's particularly focused on the numeracy element. In Pakistan, some interesting work in terms of translating some of the Khan Academy videos, and this is specifically on numeracy, into Urdu, both in terms of their educational content for learners, but also as teacher support tools. And in addition to that, using technology and to link sort of schools in Pakistan with urban-based teachers over the internet with numeracy, and then follow up with sports thereafter. So there are a couple of interesting programs on numeracy being carried out through our work. In Nigeria, a focus both on numeracy and literacy in the broader school improvement program working in 6 states in Nigeria. Improvement teams have been trained in each of those states and that are carrying out a range of activities that I highlight in the slide, including scripted lesson plans, and that again is both for literacy. And then in terms of the assessment, DFID supports whether in East Africa, particularly in Tanzania and Kenya, in Pakistan, so looking at the early grade assessment of numeracy using the developed format. And to point, so I mean, I think
entry point would be for each of the agents sort of starting to engage, be able to already describe as a community of practice what numeracy programs are, some of which may be being a, so that we're quite clear about the space and that those can be built on and be thought in particular countries and contexts where multiple partners shared aim. And certainly from a DFI, I'll be very happy to put the contact with our education people in Ghana, Pakistan and Nigeria. If, for example, GIZ or others were interested in doing a related or similar program on context. The other thing to touch on related to Michael's presentation, your point on early grade development and numeracy, and wondering the extent to which this emerging community of practice is linked in with the work of the Learning Metrics Task Force, and particularly the work of that task force as it relates to standards in numeracy as well as the assessment of numeracy. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Ed. That was a great presentation. I see that there's a lot of questions, and I've recorded them, and I'm going to give them to Ed at the end of the presentation, or all the presentations. Next, we're going to have Akiko Kagiyama, rather. She's signing in from Niger, and there's a little bit of, there might be a little bit of, because it's raining very hard in Niger, so, excuse me, last time when the sound wasn't very clear, but hopefully people can hear okay. Thanks again, Ed. And Aki, are you on? Hi, Aki.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, but so continue my presentation. So I can see presentation the PowerPoint. Can I start?
Yes, please go ahead and start, Aki.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity. My name is Aki. I work for Director Education Program. It is called School for All. And that School for next slide, please. Next School for All project is technical cooperation with the government of Niger to enhance community participation in school management and in education. The project developed a community-based school management model, and the model was extended in the whole country of Niger. Since its introduction in 2007, the total amount that all the communities in Niger mobilize every year is around $3.5 million for school improvement activities of the school action plan, such as construction of temporary classroom, purchase of stationery and textbooks, or supporting supplementary class. Then, the school enrollment rate has significantly improved from 35% in 2002 to 80% in 2011. However, the problem of the quality of education is still remaining, which is represented by low school completion rate, for example. So it could be caused by first, lack of learning material, second, purchasing skill, and third, lack of learning hours at school. According to the study, can you hear me? According to the study, 40% of learning school hours are not effective at all. Can I pass to the second slide? Howdy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Next slide, please. Second slide.
Next slide, okay.
Yeah, thank you. So, project has promoted community-based activities through the school action plan for improving the quality of education, especially student basic knowledge and skills. As a result, the majority of the communities in Niger support organizing supplementary studies at the school, which contributes to increase by about 200 learning hours a year per school. The project has also developed self-study workbooks to maximize the effect of supplementary studies supported by the community. The workbooks in basic mathematics have been developed by the JICA expert team based on JICA's experience and knowledge. They are composed of project exercises for learning basic skill and knowledge in numeracy, which allow children to learn step by step according to their actual ability. According to the student assessment of the basic calculation in science activity, about 80% of target children increased their scores by 8 points on average after 3 months activities with the workbook. In all numeracy work in Niger, learning time and facilitator are such implementation strategies in context of Niger. Also, the planning to expand the pilot area towards national, and then it is expected to impact evaluation for all intervention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aki, and much for connecting from Niger. I know that it's difficult. We've been having some difficulty with the technical. Thanks so much for getting from there, and thank you also for everyone for your questions. I'm going to start off with Michael. Michael and Noah, if you'd like to come back online, put your videos back online. I'm going to start off with a question that was given to Michael. Jeff Davis would like to, says, Michael, thanks so much for GIZ support to numeracy. In addition to the areas described in the presentation, I'm wondering about funding for interventions. Will GIZ be involved in supporting individual projects, including piloting, or is GIZ mostly looking for partnerships to fund numeracy interventions? Mike, your microphone is muted, I think. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Now it's better? Yeah, sorry for that. Thank you, Jeff, for your questions, which is a very valuable question. Unfortunately, no, we are not in the position to provide funds at this stage for pilots. What we are looking for is at this period or at this phase to cooperate with different actors in the field of numeracy to further develop approaches which might then be followed up in pilots in the next step. For the time being, we do not have the funds to support piloting, but definitely this is an idea, as I has mentioned, with our vision that we would like to prepare application-oriented approaches, which could then in the next phase be piloted and tested. Or we could use what Ed and Noah has mentioned, experiences in other fields, to explore them, to analyze them, to bring together our experiences and to develop a better understanding of approaches which might work or which are working and which have proved to work, and then to scale them up. But a clear answer to your question, Jeff, no, for the time being, we do not have the funds to support pilots.
I can find out.
Please give me the chance to just briefly respond to what Noah and Ed has presented.
Have you approached or discussed collaboration and numeracy
Noah, we definitely share your perspective that
not explicitly just related on numeracy. We have the Center for Innovation has just
Can you hear me?
has just launched weeks ago, which is a virtual platform for
Responded
for sharing.
to that. I want to echo what she and maybe add to it a little bit in deciding lesson and what's a guide is maybe, and I think the most important is to teachers into them of these assistance and looking at positive in terms of every education system has some features in it. Identifiers and working with them come up with teacher, I don't want to say guides or teacher assistants that are appropriate text and help the teacher to deliver effective instruction, deprofessionalizing them or taking away their autonomy. And I think how you do context is going to be different. And I think a big part of it is bringing the teachers on board, but also getting the school directors and others involved in early stages so that it can be a supportive approach rather than a top-down mandated compliance approach. So I'm happy to discuss this further, but I see it as very context-specific, and it needs to come from actual teachers in country themselves and not be purely externally driven.
That does some success, albeit self-reported rather than externally evaluated at this stage. But I would agree with Noah's written. In a sense, it's about sort of providing scaffolding for teachers as they start out as new teachers. So in the early stages, it may be scripted, and as those teachers gain in confidence, skills, and knowledge, that can then start to be scaled down, and the teacher themselves then takes a much more important role. So that's more what's being done through DFID support in Nigeria, where depending on teachers' levels of experience and competence, will be given support or not, and a degree of scripted lessons or not.
Okay, thank you so much, Ed. Let Michael also respond to the private sector on numeracy, if you're engaging with any private sector as you work on numeracy. Michael, your mic is muted. Okay, thank you, Michael. There's a couple of more questions that I'd like you to answer, and then I'm going to have Noah as well as Ed, and hopefully Aki, if you're still, if you can still hear us properly rather, from Niger, I'd like you to also address some of them as well. So Frances has a question. She says, when you're talking about numeracy as a foundational skill, what does it mean? Does it mean basic operations, or does it mean basic math concepts, measurements, spatial understanding? Okay, thank you, Michael. Penelope would like to know, she says, I'm curious as to whether there are thoughts from GIZ or others about EGMA, the early grade mathematics assessment.
Oriented way. But for the time being, we have yet to develop, further develop these linkages. Well, we had in our numeracy conference in Berlin last year, we had a working group which issue, and we came up with a preliminary answer. What we know is that in most of our countries we are working in, there are standards, there are already curricula available, and there are already skills defined within the partner country context, what they understand with mathematics skills. First, there is a international debate about the right standards. But what we would like to have is we would like to see what there is around, what standards we are talking about, what are the references we have, and we should then develop this really agreed. This is what I have mentioned in my presentation. To define these foundational skills in a more concrete manner. But as I said, there are standards around. They are not yet synchronized, but we have to refer to them. And if we work in our partner countries, we have definitely to take into consideration the existing curricula and standards there. Yes, for those who were at our conference, we have also discussed EGMA there. EGMA is one of the assessment tools besides others. What we have started also in exchange with Deepa from GPE, what we'd like to explore is what assessment tools and approaches are available. And we would like to then see what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their implications are, starting from costs, but also expertise, and the purposes they can be used. And EGMA is definitely one of the assessment approaches or tools which we have in mind. But you are all aware that EGMA has specific strengths compared to others, but also some other maybe weaknesses. And what we'd like to identify is, or what we like to develop is a kind of orientation, what tools are available, for what purposes they can be used, what they require to be applied in a specific context. And based on that, we might have a kind of better orientation for all of us to make better use and more selective use of these various approaches which are around. And EGMA is definitely one of them. Yes, this is very much under discussion. I have just mentioned the working group in the framework of the M-Education Alliance Symposium in October in Washington. And one of the ideas is that we would like to explore opportunities with partners who are eager to cooperate in this area, because as you all know, there is a lot of optimism in the field of mobile education and numeracy, but there is still a lack of evidence about what concrete interventions work and how they work. And yes, we would like to follow up, and we will follow up on this evidence-generating initiative. That's a good question. This is a question which I can't answer on behalf of the other donors. We have, I think, two different levels. The first level is our country or individual country programs, where in the bilateral technical cooperation, where we do have basically as a prerequisite to become active, an agreement with the partner. So there the partner country perspective is definitely included. On our level, where we are working right now with our sector program, which is more an advisory program in a more, I would say, higher aggregated effort to boost numeracy on the international agenda. We have involved some partner countries in our numeracy conference, but one of the critical feedbacks was definitely that the perspective of the partner countries is not yet reflected in our efforts. So that is why we are right now, for instance, joining forces with various actors. A few of them are present right now do a regional workshop in the MENA region, where we will have the close cooperation with the partner countries to get their perspective on not only numeracy but all children learning activities as such.
So the approach that we're currently proposing for Djibouti.
Well, we have a few ideas. The one initial step is again this webinar where we had right now. How do you say, outed ourselves to the international communities. We wanted to come back and follow up on the dynamic which we have started in the International Numeracy Conference in Berlin. We are operational right now as a sector program, and from now we would like to follow up this exchange which we have started right now. I think there will be a discussion how we can arrange that. GPE has already some embryos available for the community of practice, which is of course this exchange in this format, but also some working groups focusing more on specific elements of the numeracy agenda, like assessment or others. I have mentioned a working group in the framework of the M-Education Alliance Symposium, which will be then more focusing on mobile learning in numeracy. But yes, we will definitely follow up on this, but there is no concrete and agreed format for this community of practice yet. What we want to do is also with this event, we would like to invite you to join in, to get in contact with us, and to jointly develop this idea and format which suits ourselves to have a community or to develop a community of practice. So this is not something which we would like to how do you say, prepare you as a ready-made format, but which we would like to develop together with you so that it suits our all expectations and requirements.
Okay, thank you. And there's a question from Anne. She says, I'm glad to see a focus on the community role in promoting numeracy. I think that this is key because even if
As I said in the presentation, 80% of the students gained their scores. And actually, as I said in my presentation, in the school, at the school in India, most of the children cannot have enough time to learn at the school. This approach,
Sure. I haven't used the EGMA. We are hoping to use it in Djibouti GPE grant design currently being developed. In terms of the weaknesses, I think some of the comments about the EGRA and the EGMA are both aligned in the sense that many times it is above what certainly teachers are able to do and what some in the different countries with which we work are able to do.
Thank you so much, Aki.
And while,
I'm just going to
as I
quickly
understand it,
reiterate
the
what
viewer came
she
out of
said
a
that
classroom-based tool.
they've done impact
It tends to be
evaluations
very
in Niger,
effective as a system-wide
regarding the
tool
community involvement,
for
and
shocking people
one
into
study had
action
400
and
students, so
collecting
perhaps I could get that.
real-time data about
She's presented in her PowerPoint,
performance.
but perhaps maybe I can get
The
a report from her as well and
isn't
share it with the community
necessarily,
so that everyone has it as well.
in its current form, well
Okay,
adapted
and
to
I'm going to
daily
wrap
or
up this
regular
webinar in just a
classroom
minute,
use
but I
by
just wanted to
teachers
know if
as
there's
a
any
formative
last
tool,
questions that
given
or any questions
existing
people would like to ask the
capacities.
presenters, or
So
if Michael
the
and Noah,
approach
you
that
can actually
we're
both
currently
remove your
proposing
webcams, and
for
if you
Djibouti
have any
is
concluding
to
remarks
use
that you would like to make,
the
and
end of
we'll
year
wrap up
second
the webinar in
grade
2 or 3
math
minutes.
exam, retool it using some inspiration from the EGMA, and the EGMA a separate unit of analysis on a randomized échantillon selection basis rather than trying to implement it as a national tool. The development of the World Bank Global on Education for 2020 was a consultative process and took a lot of input from different, both board members of the World Bank, but also client members. In terms of particular country programs, I think you generally find a spectrum of engagement. There are countries which
Thank you,
come
Michael.
with a defined
Noah,
plan
any,
and
concluding
request
remarks?
the specific financing from multilateral donors such as the World Bank. There are other countries
Noah, your
where
mic is
some
muted.
in-depth analysis and policy dialogue is required before you can get to the point where you have a countrywide program. So I would really say it depends on a specific country, and it's systematized across the bank somewhat at the anchor level, but is often individual task teams that gather this information and make sure that the client is on board and fully invested in the proposed project.
Okay, thank you both. And Aki, would you just like to say any concluding remarks I can convey to the community?
Yeah, actually, I regret that I could hardly hear your discussion. So, thank you for this opportunity. If you need,
sure, I'd be happy to comment.
I'll give you
in different countries that I've worked, pushing for a community role
okay, thank you very much, Aki.
sometimes
sorry,
not been well
because the
received
Polycom is down
at
here.
upper levels of
but Aki
the
says she
central
apologizes
ministries.
for the technical
In
problems
some
that we have with the
countries,
sound.
there's a
But she said,
perception
feel
that
free to get
education
in
is
touch
something
with
that
her
happens
regarding any of the
within the
data
four walls of a school,
that they have in Niger or the
and this
program
is
that they're doing
indeed
in Niger, and she'd be
the
happy to share
mindset
it.
and structural
So I wanted to
application
thank
of many
everyone again
ministries
for
of
joining this
education.
webinar,
So
the special
World
Numeracy
Bank
webinar
support
today.
to community-based
Thank you again to all the
education
presenters,
exists
Michael,
and has
Noah,
been a strong
Ed, and
theme
Aki
over the
for
years,
presenting
but it's not
on their numeracy
universally
plans for the next few years. And
accepted
all of the
by
presentations will be
individual
posted on
client
the
countries,
community
depending
practice
on
site.
the specific
I will give instructions.
viewpoints
I will
and
send out
objectives.
instructions by email how to access the presentations as well as this video that's recorded, and so you can access others. And I hope that we can continue the conversation on the community as well as through email exchange. Thanks again, and hope, as Michael said, hope we can face sometime soon as well. All right, take care and have a great day, everybody. Thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, thank you, Ellen Rose. I will have, I'll make sure that the comment as well. So much. Thanks again, everyone. Bye. Take care. Thank you, Aki, for joining. Should I just start?
I think she did.
Bye, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Bye-bye. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Wanted to thank you, Deepa and Michael and everyone else who joined, and invite anyone interested to contact me over email or phone. I'm happy to respond in greater detail and discuss some of the research and World Bank programs behind any of the questions. It's not always easy to speak completely freely and transparently over such a wide audience, so I invite people to contact me individually, and I'd be happy to discuss further. Thank you.